Bom, eu acho que esse é o final do jogo. Esse é o episódio final, quer dizer, né? Por causa que, se eu não me engano, não tem muito mais o que fazer, né? Então, parecia que tinha um negócio aqui, né? Bom, igual.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Vamos voltar então, né? Ah, mas dá pra subir aqui, beleza.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Ué. Acho que é por aqui então. Beleza. Se eu não me engano, esse aí é o último episódio mesmo. Opa! Aquele narguilé, né?
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Ué. Que isso? Não dá pra ir pra fora. Ou dá pra... Ó, o videogame.
Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Louis Finch, Locker Contents. O trabalho dele, se eu não me engano. Não. O que é isso?
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Louis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Louis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to...
Opa! Oi! O que eu faço? Ué? Ué, o que é pra fazer aqui? Ué?
Wander.
Ah!
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about.
Tá, vamos tentar ir por baixo aqui.
Then something moved. Bats. And toads.
Legal que eu tô meio que vesgo,
Things
né?
that have not names.
Opa!
He knew it was all in his head.
Eita, que foda! Abriu o caminho
He took
cortando.
it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself.
Vamos ticar ele. Ah, não tem o que fazer.
But he found something more.
Opa!
I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Louis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused.
Bom, sim, né? O cara fica viajando.
Like a whole new Louis. So I let him go on.
Putz, grilo.
I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend.
Ó o cachorro.
On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians.
Os bardos aí. Pum, pum, pum.
And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band.
Opa.
And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger.
O pessoal do Pecholos.
He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor.
E ele ganhou.
And he won.
Tá bom, então.
They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality.
Cuidado pra não bater. Ah, acho que não tem problema se bater, então.
Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on.
Bah, mãe. Bah, mãe enchendo o saco do moleque pra vazar e não nem escutou.
In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a...
Ah, vamos um lindo príncipe.
beautiful prince.
Pride Princess.
The prince was on his own quest for
Arco-íris radiantes, né, cara? Serpentes sinistras.
radiant rainbows.
Quem aqui quer ir atrás de serpente sinistra, por favor, né? Opa!
He followed the sound of his
Citar.
electric sitar.
Bah, não, moleque viaja demais, né?
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon.
Chegamos.
Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination.
Pô, sai daqui, cara. Ó o Luiz aqui.
But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king.
Opa. Tá, foi. Tá, mas acho que já deu de peixe, né, meu irmão? Porra.
For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace.
Opa. Pô, cara, para de vir peixe, pô.
My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
É daí que ele... Foi daí que ele viajou. Aí a mãozinha sumiu, hein? Agora... Qual será que é meu armário, né?
Began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
Olha, eu tô me vendo como um príncipe, né? Ou não. Não sei, na real.
He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Ah, esse aqui sou eu, não é? Ah, sou eu, esse cara aqui. Que não tá fazendo nada, mas beleza.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions.
Aí, valeu, galera. Obrigado aí. Obrigado a todo mundo. Opa. Parou, não precisa, gente. Obrigado.
Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him.
Muito obrigado. Valeu. Pô, a musiquinha tá boa, né? Pá, salve. Opa. Valeu.
His prince waiting, holding his crown.
Suave.
There was only one thing left to do.
O que tem que fazer? Bah, mas a música tá alta.
Bend down his head.
Já viu, né?
I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Rapaz! Galera.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Falta a minha mãe e a Edith. Tínhamos esquecido dessa parte, mas a gente vai acabar tudo hoje.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Vamos sair daqui e vamos terminar tudo hoje.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder.
Mas é meio complicado, né, cara? Falar que tu tá saindo da casa.
I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
Que era a nossa casa?
My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
Porra. Isso aqui talvez era do meu pai. Sanjay.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner.
Edith. Esse aqui é o meu quarto.
But it had to end one way or another.
Esse aqui é o pico mais alto.
All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Opa.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
Falou que nunca quer sair da casa. Onde é que ela falou que tava o nosso
the
presente?
power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that
Opa.
Edie had a key to it.
Pô,
The thing
quanto?
you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house.
Ah, tá
Edith
falando
has a
dela.
right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Porra. Olha a história do... Oh, a história dos Finches. Opa, não, 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 não. Quero ver, quero ver.
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born.
Olha aí.
That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know,
Mas mesmo assim...
I've seen that house every day of my life.
Mesmo assim, tá um cheiro de merda, mas eu quero ir.
I
Foda-se.
never thought I'd go back to it.
Botou
When
o
the
mod
fog
do
rolled in,
GTA sem merda.
I lost my way.
Fog clássica, né? Fazer o quê?
I got turned around. I started seeing things.
Ah, tá vendo coisas que vão acontecer, talvez?
Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me.
Caraca, as coisas da casa.
Or maybe I came back to them.
Ó a casa aí.
Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Eita.
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go. I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car.
Pô, mancada.
I never saw Great Grandma Edie again.
Ah, não é minha avó, é minha
The next
bisa.
morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot.
Uau. Uau.
We both tried to make the best of it.
Uau.
A few years went by.
Como é que é só...
My mom didn't like to talk about it.
Como é
but
que é
she
só?
started getting sick a lot.
Ih, rapaz. Opa!
The rest happened pretty quickly.
Ela que assoprou.
She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive.
Tá porra.
Until I found out about you.
Ah, eu sou
I'm
o
still not sure what
bebezinho.
to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is.
O ventre da minha mãe é meio estranho, né? Que é isso, gente? Eu não tô
This
pronto,
journal was
gente.
supposed to be for you,
Gente.
but now I hope you'll never see it.
Ué?
I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself.
Gente, eu acho que eu não tô pronto pra sair. Gente.
But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.
Ih, gente. Gente. Acho que eu não tô pronto pra sair. Ou
This
estou.
is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone.
Ah.
I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Pô, a Edith Finch morreu. Nossa, eu não tinha me lembrado disso. Puta que pariu. Tenso, tenso, tenso. Ah, dá pra esquipar, né? Por favor. Olha, todo mundo criancinha. Que fofo. Pô, vou... Peraí. Selecione Edith para jogar do início. Como assim? Ah, eu vou ficar... Vamos ver o que que tem nos... Ah, na real eu não quero ver os créditos, né, galera? Foi mal. Vamos ver aqui... Ah, aqui meio que... Vamos ver jogar histórias novamente. Ah, eu escolho quem eu quero... Como assim? Aqui é pra começar tudo de novo. Tem uns bagulho que são conectados, né? Ah, eu chuto que a Eri e a Dawn é tudo junto, né? Então... Bom. Vou deixar os créditos rolando, né? E vamos ver o que que tem no final. Bom, eu acho que a gente chegou em alguma coisa aqui, né? Depois de... Ah, beleza. Só foda-se, né? Vamos ver aqui o que dá pra fazer. Vamos ver aqui. What Remains of Edith Finch. Beleza. Tá. Bate, barulhão não.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you. And I'm sorry about that.
Vamos ver.
I'm just going to start at the beginning. With the house.
Vamos ver aqui. Ah, é só Ed, então não.
Someone had put up a chain link fence, but it looked like I wasn't the first person to hop it.
Bom, então não vale a experiência, até vale, né, fazer de novo, mas fica para uma próxima, né, uma próxima bem longa. Acabamos o What Remains of Edith Finch. É isso aí. Mais uma série completada. Sem ninguém ter visto. Mas é isso aí. Muito obrigado pela sua visualização e até a próxima série, né? Fazer o quê?